Okay, we should be live. Just checking on everything.
Oh, let me see if I can share this on Facebook too.
Yeah, I've not been able to. You can't tag anyone anymore, but it'll be on my page. So while we're just fiddling around with that, I will just say welcome, everybody. Welcome to Love Speaks Love, and I'm your host, and my two beautiful guests today are Nalinee Diosara. Have I pronounced that right, Diosara?
Yes.
And Dale Tobin. Welcome, you two. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on the show. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
And this kind of came about. Nalinee was on the show probably about 3 years ago. And we had mentioned fairly recently about you coming back. And Dale came into my awareness on one of the light language shows that he's one of the hosts of. And I was quite intrigued by his accent because it sounded like he wasn't a million miles away from where I am in England. And then I had a little look for him on Facebook and found out he's actually only about 30 minutes away in the country, in rural Yorkshire, where there are not many folk.
A lot of sheep.
There's a lot of sheep.
Cows.
Beautiful, but not that many people, and there's not that many people who's especially not that many people who speak light language. So I reached out and then saw that you had a show on YouTube as well, the Talking Stick show, and saw that Nalinee had been a guest on there. And I watched you two interact and I thought, that's a really nice connection there. That would be, because I love having two guests as well. That would be a really nice, a nice connection to share on Love Speaks Love. And Nalinee so light language has been coming through for a while, and I've been doing a lot of things in the air, which I was aware was light language. And many years ago, I thought, I'm going to look this up. I'm going to Google this. And it was the first thing that I saw, the first image was Nalinee's white lion with the light language on it. And I knew then that what I was doing was, because I was like, I'm sure this is light language, but I knew when I saw your work, I was like, yes. And it was amazing at that time to find other people that were doing it. Because when it really started coming through strongly in Australia, I knew there were a lot of people in Byron that were doing it, but I didn't know many of them. So, and Keepers of the Codes was another way I think that we connected Nalinee when that group was quite small. Yeah, so it's really, really lovely to have you both here. And before we get too far into it, I'm just gonna say that we normally start Love Speaks Love with a little heart-to-heart connecting all of our hearts together, we three, but also connecting hearts with Gaia, with the Sun and with Source Creator, and obviously with everyone that's going to watch us as well, either present with us live or on the replay or on YouTube. So let's take a few breaths together. Breathing into our hearts, breathing love into our hearts, breathing love into every cell of our bodies, and breathing all the way down into our bellies now, and breathing all the way down to the tip of our toes and the tops of our heads. And releasing anything of the day so far, or the day ahead, or the week, anything that is stopping us from being in this now moment. So using the breath to releasing any old energies, any old programs. And extending our heart awareness out now to the heart of Gaia. And if it works for you to visualize golden threads of energy working down from our spine or from the soles of our feet and anchoring deep into the earth, as our awareness connects with the heart and feeling Gaia's energy moving into our bodies, into our hearts, into the base of our spine, into our feet, into our hands, into our head, and spreading all over our bodies. And feeling Gaia's love for us, feeling Gaia's appreciation, her gratitude, and her recognition of all of us. And feeling gratitude in our hearts for Gaia. And extending that heart awareness out to the heart of the sun. Feeling the love from the sun and the energy from the sun moving into our hearts. I always find, especially at this time of year, the energy moving into my solar plexus, which feels like a solar battery, charging up. And extending our heart awareness out to the heart of Source Creator. And feeling the energy from Source moving into our bodies, maybe moving into our crown and going down our spinal column. And moving into every cell of our bodies. And feeling centered and aligned with our awareness in our heart space. And I'll pass over at this point to you first, Nalinee, and just see if there's anything you wish to add, and then over to you, Dale.
To heart of all, as we connect. Thank you.
So just allowing yourself to breathe your own knowingness, your own strength of who you are, what you are, and how great you are. And just allowing the breath to release you and relax you. I'd like you now is to envision the brain, and I'd like you to bring the brain down into the heart. And this may seem a bit strange, but just allowing it, trusting it. So just allowing the brain to come into the heart space and just having a few moments and allowing the brain to recalibrate the heart and the brain so they are working as one. They are not separate. There is not a disconnection process. Just having a few moments on having that brain in the heart and coming back into sacred union with yourself, with who you are, with the ancestors, the Great Spirit. And I'd like you now is to tell the heart, I love you, I trust who I am. I trust my ability to work to the stars and beyond the stars. Then just allowing the brain to come back into its regular position. And as it does, there's this newfound connection with yourself, this newfound oneness as you return back to home, to who you are. Aho.
Beautiful.
That was fun.
Yeah, so I suggest anybody watching with your eyes are closed if you want to open them, but also having some water with you, because I have a feeling there's going to be plenty of activation in this chat, as there has been already. Thank you both. That was really beautiful. I love to extend that out because everyone always does things slightly differently. There's always, a slightly different frequency that comes in when people share that. And it's always beautiful, just the different ways that we kind of all do the same thing, but just our own little touch. And thank you, Nalinee, for bringing the sound in. And that's maybe where I'm getting nudged to start, actually, with so one of the threads, I think, between all of us is the use of sound in our daily lives, in our ceremony, and in our work. So I'd love for you both to share, and I'll start with you Nalinee, because you brought the sound in first, of how that journey's been in bringing sound, like what attracted you to start using sound, and if you want to bring light language into this as well, like how you started working with light language, or if you just want to keep it specific to sound, not that the two are separate, but however you want to kind of answer this.
Yeah, it's a personal healing journey as well, and I started with light language itself. I have always been a timid and shy person that I often don't know how to express, or didn't know how to express, and light language kind of triggered my interest and curiosity. But the voice and coming into a more melodic sound and rhythm with rattles and drum came after my experience with shamanism in Amazon, which really grounded me and really healed, helped me heal a lot of clogged up and self-doubt, and it intertwining with using light language as sound through our voice to connect with the unseen realm, to give thanks to the sun, to give thanks to the earth, to direct the voice in order to create space, to release, to open up energies, and the list goes on. But it started off with my personal healing path as well, of allowing that voice to come through and coincide with meeting doubts and fear and judgment to what singing should be, and just let that go. Yeah. And I still can't sing like other people. I can only sing what I feel, and this probably resonate with the animal kingdom, how they use their voice very instinctively. So I resonate with that more. Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. And so in resonance with that, like I think so many of us have had throat stuff to work through to be able to do this, especially not just doing it in personal lives or in nature, but actually standing here and doing it online and being seen by people that you don't even know that are going to be seeing you. It's next level. So yeah, I hear you. Dale,
Yeah.
go on. Sorry, Nalinee, carry on.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say I don't even think about who's watching anymore. It's just the sound, the voice, and the energy. Okay, Dale.
Beautiful. And that's it. So my journey of light language and kind of like expressing ourselves in the soul form, it actually started with Nalinee. I saw it a bit through various modalities, and I saw Nalinee doing a lot of light language stuff. Then through Andrew Bartzis has helped me do a lot more extra light language. And from my learning and understanding of it, it was like Nalinee, I had that programming of me not sounding good enough, not sounding great, because I wasn't a great singer like various other people. But when I started to go deeper and deeper into light language, I was able to remove myself from my voice, I'd say my expression of who I really think I am, but going into a state where, a no time state where I am at everything and nothing at the same time. And my journey from it, at the start, when I started doing light language, I was very rigid, and I was like, and I was, then now I let it rip even more, where I'm starting to make very strange noises, and sometimes I don't scare myself, but when I first did it, I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, I was doing some really strong toning as well, and it's not being afraid of it. And for me, those aspects of myself which were afraid of my own power, and when I started to do language more and more, I started having to do inner work and looking back at these parts of myself which didn't feel great enough, didn't feel good enough to be spiritual, didn't feel good enough to be a teacher. All of those different aspects of me were stopping me from expressing my true soul language. And it's not exactly like I can do light language in Nalinee, you can, everyone can do it. It's just about having that layer of trust with yourself and trusting yourself enough to do it. Because at the end of the day, that's what spirituality is all about, trust, and whether you trust yourself. And if you trust yourself, you can explore deeper layers. And the show you were listening to, Denise, with Andrew and Laura and Matty, we were doing where we were basically going into light language. So say if you wanted to let go of someone, you'd put that intention and start doing light language specifically to let go of them. So I've learned a lot. I'm still learning a fucking lot from it. I'm still on my beginning journey from it, and I'm still expanding and expanding. And it's incredible. It really is. And yeah, it's really, really fun. And if you don't know how to do it, and if you're listening to this, a great way to do it would be do like a yole hee hoo. Then after you've done that and got that out of you, just transform it into light language and trigger your brain to doing it. And a lot of people can do it from just doing that, doing a normal, regular brain stuff, then going out of the brain and just allowing it to come out of you. There was a process which you'll find really funny, guys. So Andrew Bartis, my mentor, was basically, he was writing light language, and he sent me loads of like a text of light language for me to read out. So I started to read out, and I tried to read from my brain, and my brain basically gave up and said, what the fuck? It kind of like a huge brain fart came and it shut down. It completely disappeared and shattered. And so I had to get out of the brain and start reading it from in here, and it was easier. So it's allowing ourselves to get out of that brain state, like Nalinee was talking about, from the programming and stuff, and allowing us to go into that heart space. So yeah, that's a little bit of intake on my perspective of it.
And you're so right in that, because it does bypass the brain. You can't necessarily, you really can't use your brain to understand light language or to work with it, really. It is the language of the heart, it's the language of the soul, and it kind of, yeah, it does bypass the brain. And one of the ways that I suggest to people, and this works to clear the energy as well around your throat, because there's often stuff sticking there that is preventing the words from coming through, that's preventing the light language coming through. So it can be good when I've done gatherings where we're kind of learning to speak light language, but it's not really learning to speak it as such, because that suggests the brain. But I'll just use that expression. So one way is to just make any sounds that your mouth wants to make, and even just doing that, like however weird they sound, however crazy it sounds, just let those sounds out. And then to speak, kind of just imagine that you're a child and you're speaking gobbledygook, and you're just speaking nonsense, and just doing that can shift enough, and then you find, actually this sounds different. And isn't it amazing the sounds that can come out of a human voice box? It's incredible. You start to use like the chambers at the back of your mouth that go up to your nose. You find that you're using the whole of this area, and there's much more resonance. You find it's coming from much deeper as well. There's much more resonance in there. The more that we clear, and the clearer we are, and the more that we shed from that area, it has a completely different resonance. There's lots of extra kind of frequencies and resonances coming in that we're able to share. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, there's something what reminded me when you talked about the children and the child. So I was doing light language out in the open on a walk, and I was singing it, like saying it to the kids, and I just said, you do it back to me, and they did it so fucking easily, and they were just throwing it right back at me, and I was just like, they're like, and they were just straight back in light language at me, and they innately just, it was basically like, right, just something so easy for them. And once you got them into it and tricked them into it, they were just coming back to me. Or Peter and Heath were doing light language from different things, and walking around the fields with my kids speaking to me in light language.
Light language family, eh?
Yes.
How old are they?
So the two who were with me were 10, and Heath was 9. Sorry, 10 and 9. So those two. And they picked it up so easily. And you do hear babies and kids doing it, all that gobbledygooch where they go, ba, ba, ya, ba. It's all that like light language frequency as well. It's cool.
Yeah. And I find being in nature really helps. So when it started coming through for me, I was living in Byron Bay in Australia, and I spent a lot of time by the sea. And water to me is something that really triggers the light language, whether it's the ocean, whether it's rivers, lakes, streams, being in the bath, being in the shower. That connection with water, I just want to sing when I'm with water. I just want to bring frequencies through. And sometimes it's for the water, sometimes it's like clearing the energy of the water. But it's such a reciprocal thing, because the water is clearing me in that as well. So every time I was walking down the beach, because the waves are so loud, I could do it pretty loud without anybody hearing me as well. So I hear a lot of people say that when they're out in nature, that's when it starts to come through. Sometimes when people are alone in their cars as well, because that's often the only time that they feel in that bubble and no one can hear them. Yeah, what are your experiences with that, like being in nature and just letting it flow when you're in nature?
I feel that it's very much of an example of shamanic connection, isn't it? Is that the ability of using our voice to connect with the spirit of the trees, spirit of water in your case, the elementals, the animals, and sometimes I do get birds singing along, and that feels very activating to experience animal reflecting that and jamming back with you. And I often sing to stray cats in Bangkok. Some of them listen, some of them sit down and listen, some of them just looked and walked away. I'm like, fine.
Standard cat. And it's lucky you fuck off. Some of them will give you a bit of attention about no.
But I always feel deep relationship from voice adding on with intention to connect with the unseen templates of each land. And I feel that is too part of what me and my husband do when we travel around. It's not just a relaxing time, but the energy of that mountains kind of guide us to different spots, different ruins, to connect beyond written history, to connect and kind of to navigate the Akashic records of ours and relationship with that land. And it comes through that undeniable urge to sing, to speak, to ignite that voice. And that comes back to the state of being a conduit, isn't it? We are all conduits of energy, and I feel that being in cities, especially being a city like Bangkok, we are overcrowded by the EMF frequencies and the business of the mental state programming, and by being in nature we feel energetically more free of that kind of innate expression. Yeah, so that's my take on it.
And that's beautifully put. And like you say, Nalinee, about the cats and the birds, it's when you're doing that light language, you go into that nature expression, and the birds are doing the light language and the animals are doing the light language. And it's like, even though no matter where you are and you start doing light language, it's like you tune into that natural expression of disconnecting and out creating the system, out creating Roman numeral time, out creating all the bullshit, so you can be listening to the planet again, and you can be entwined with the earth mother, the dreaming mind, and all different aspects. And in ceremonies and fire ceremonies, when you go into nature and you start doing that light language, it's just a soul expression. It's like putting paint on your face and saying, this is who I am, this is what I am, and this is what I want to express. Yeah, incredible stuff, Lily.
One of my favourite experiences in Australia, one place that I lived, I had a big hill to climb up to get back from the beach. And it was a bit of a mission. It was the highest spot in Byron, but it was going through bush, and there were lots of wallabies that used to be around there. And often they're solitary, but often they're in groups. And I used to sing as I was walking through, and I used to be singing light language as I was walking through. And one of them, this one day, just kind of just pricked his ears at me, and it was very close to me. It was only just a few feet away. And we had the most beautiful, this is one of my favorite like experiences of life. We had this beautiful interaction for minutes where it had like a little bit of grass in its mouth that it was eating, but it stopped chewing. It stopped doing everything apart from just occasionally one ear listening to where the rest of the wallabies were. But we had eye-to-eye contact, and like it was such a loving experience, and there was such a beautiful, I'm feeling teary, such a beautiful heart-to-heart connection between us. It was really, really special. And it happened again a few years later with a different wallaby. I could tell it was a different wallaby because the second one had all these scars in its ears. And I managed to take some photos of that one as I was speaking to it. And you can just see the love in the eyes of the wallaby. Like so many animals, maybe not always cats, but so many animals do just love to be enveloped in this. And it feels like it's the precursor to telepathy. It feels like it's the bridge between where we are now and telepathy and full, not even having to try connection and communication with the animals. Any feels on that, any experiences on that, either of you?
Do you want to go, Nalinee?
Dale, we go first.
I was like, do you want to go? Yes. So for me, so if we think about the alphabet, of how many words are in the alphabet, or language, which different people speak, basically the language feels like a limitation. So when, like English, for instance, it's got more negative words and it has positive words. It doesn't really have a true form of expression. And when you're in that light language form, you're able to actually express yourself fully. You're able to talk in layers you'd never been able to express before. It's like a universal language which everyone has, and it's like as soon as you start opening that universal language up, it starts in, like I've done light language for about 45 minutes, 50 minutes for an hour once, and I felt quite sick because it was high energy. After 45 minutes, literally started feeling sick. I started feeling all weird. I was like, I couldn't switch off. It took me like an hour and a half just to turn down. And that was a big teacher for me of how fucking special light language is. Once you start going in that frequency, you have more of the higher soul present, more of the I am here now, instead of allowing the monkey brain or the three-dimensional self to come into play. You're able to kind of like just allow yourself to sing. And I do it in the car. I say light language if I'm going through some shit or going through a rough time. I start doing light language in prayer towards that. and it can hit areas which I can't regularly hit with the human language. I feel we're limited with our language, and light language is a way we can all have some sort of soul expression together as well.
Yeah, it's medicine, isn't it? And it's nothing new. It's very ancient form of healing, like the shamans in the Amazonian. They sing the magic song Icaros to activate the spirit of plant medicines, and also many other regions around the world. It has been said that in the process of shamanizing or channeling, they would speak something that no human can understand. Coming back to language in this region where I am, Thai is based on Pali and Sanskrit, which perhaps hold more energetic resonance like Latin, more than how we currently use our language to communicate, because now the human language has been clouded by aggression, clouded by other programmings. But when we becoming mindful of how we use sound, how we say words, then we become more aware of how it shapes reality. And I feel that part of the service of the so-called light language is what we've been talking about, is to bypass that rigid linguistic mindset, and also to bypass fear. Many people judge, people who speak light language as being possessed, etc. But the thing is, they don't understand it. It's just fear. It's simply fear. People said it's demonic, and it blocks other people answering this call to their voice, and that again is just fear. So thank you for allowing us to share and create more awareness of this.
And it does, it scares a lot of people. Like, it scared me at the start, and that's when I started doing it in more tongue, like going really deep into my voice, and I was like, holy shit, that's a bit scary. But then I was like, I have to break beyond that fear, because some of the universal beings who have a language where they'd speak and you'd be like, holy fuck, like they'd be speaking in such a unique frequency, and not to get scared of allowing yourself to be loud. But with the light language, it's been funny for me, because I've always been low at that one pace, and now from various people I've been listening to and helping me, it's right, now I need to change it up and see if I can start doing it in different tongues and frequencies and stuff. And yeah, it's an incredible journey, it really is. I really do love it.
And I think some of those frequencies you talk about, and I'm going straight to I've got a dragon mask that's on my lamp over there in the corner, and some of those frequencies are the dragon frequencies, and they are powerful, and they're deep. They're often deep, bassy frequencies. When it first started coming through for me, it was very soft feminine. It was very kind of Sophionic, you might say. It was divine mother kind of energy. And very crystalline. So for me, when the deeper stuff started coming through, and the notes that you can hit as well, like you might be singing light language and you might go really deep, and then you hear in your head like the next note down, and you're like, can I actually go there? And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And the same with the high ones. It's like, you think you're at your limit. And my vocal range has definitely extended since doing this, so you can hit those higher notes, and it's often your head that is stopping you from hitting them if you can't get to them as well, because it's the it's the fear, it's the the ego in their head stepping in going, you can't do that. But when you do, and just the sounds that can come through that aren't, sometimes they're like clicks, sometimes you don't know what wants to come through. You can feel that something new is wanting to come through. And then when it does, you're like, what was that? Where has that come from? I didn't know my mouth could make that sound. And it's really beautiful to record yourself doing that and listen listen back to it and receive, because it does feel like you're creating a portal of energy when you do this. So that a bit of clearing going on here. So then when you just sit in that afterwards and just receive it, it's amazing. And you're like, whoa, how did that one come through?
Have you heard the rugby, is it the New Zealand haka? Yeah, there you go. So that's some again, a form of different expression of light language where they'd become the warriors, and start fully expressing themselves without fear. And that's something I had to go through. I was like, oh, that sounds a bit scary.
And it's very dragon energy that it feels like they're not just connecting with, but merging with. I'd say my first haka was at a funeral. It was welcoming in the body, so that was so powerful. Yeah, Nalinee, anything you want to add to this?
I grew up in New Zealand, so it's special to hear things about New Zealand, but that was a very long time ago. For me, it would be throat singing, but I do not know how to do that yet, and I feel that if I'm going to walk that path, it will be a lot of healing, especially in the solar plexus. Throat singing of the Tuvans, the Mongolian. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's my path or not, but I would like to explore Mongolia and just set my foot on that land, because I feel that's closer to my Chinese lineage. I'm half Thai, half Chinese. And yeah, throat singing is ancient, and it's just that, again, similar to the haka, that power of the human as instrument, isn't it? Human as instrument of frequency and instrument of sound, and it comes back again to how everything is just made out of sound in different frequency. Yeah.
So Nalinee, you mentioned the ancestors and connecting with the ancestors, and the guardians and the ancestors of the land, and to me, often when we're out in nature, we're connecting with the beings of inner earth as well. And it feels like all those messages are getting so loud, like the trees are louder, the birds are louder, not just their singing's louder, but their telepathic communication is getting louder. But also the Fae. What's your experience of working with the Fae kingdom? And I mean that in its broadest terms, and including in that, I'd say the shining ones, anything that isn't really what we can see with our normal physical eyes, whether they're the winged ones or some of them are not winged ones. How does that work for you? And any experiences of that you want to share?
Yeah, the element. I have to speak of the elementals of Thailand, because I haven't really traveled internationally since the pandemic. So I've been feeling a lot of the elementals in Thailand, and we do have a lot of mythical creatures in children's stories and children's book. Recently, where I was, a town of Bai, where it attracts a lot of hippies, a lot of spiritual travelers. There's a lot of elementals there, and I did not see them in actual form. However, I can sense their sizes, whether they come and hop around like fairy with wings or without wings, or they come as giants and guardians of the lands. And there was some yogi spirit hanging around in a smoking area because they love tobacco. So it's just always on. I can tune in at will, and sometimes I don't, for the sake of sanity, that I need to function. But when I open up, they can be really playful, and they can play, and sometimes they can trigger. They can cross over into a little bit of a trickster energy. they can play with your dreams. They can play with jokes, or play with a bit of temptation of the ego. So I feel that it's like going into channeling, going into light language, working with elementals of the middle realm of earth. there's a practice of neutralizing our energies so that we don't get swayed too far into their realms and forget our human self. And there is a practice that I feel that is important for us all, just to build that foundation of knowing, okay, this is where we at, and this is where they are, and here is the middle ground where we connect and play. And often I would ask them the stories of the mountains, the story of the ancient ruins, the story of the lands where the temples are built. And sometimes I would be taken up to the stars, sometimes I would have memories of elephants, of animals who walked those lands before humans. Yeah. And even Asian civilization as well, here would be very strong in Lemuria and Mu consciousness. Yeah.
Dale, over to you.
Yeah, so it reminded me this story of when you were saying that. So the other night I was out, probably about a week ago, I was out for a walk with my son Heath, and we went on a night walk in the forest. And there was loads of different woods. There was a place called Turtle Wood. Then I walked over this field into another wood, and on the way back down, and this is really funny how it all worked out. So I shined my torch down, and as I shined it up, there was a being, and it was like a black being. It was like an elemental, and it felt like an ancestor of the forest, and it was as black outline of this aura. And it stood right in front of me. I shone it, and it was clear as day. Just came out this being, this black aura, then it disappeared. And this was really cool because so my brain tried to tell me. So my brain made up a story. It made up a story that I got the flashlight, shone it in my eyes. Then I looked up, and because of my eyes had the flashlight in, it made up the shadow. So I was like, mystical experience, brilliant. Then my brain started making up a story to fit what it could only do into a three-dimensional programming. And I knew exactly what it is, my heart. I didn't tell Heath because he might have been a bit scared, but that was for me a big lesson. And it was beautiful. And I asked what it was. I didn't really ask specifically connected to it, but it was an ancestor of the forest. It wasn't specifically in a human form. It was a different form, looked similar like to a human. And if we are speaking to these multi-dimensional beings, why are we speaking to them? And like you say, Nalinee, is not getting lost in it all. If you are speaking to a being, having full respect for them, having full respect for who they are, and not using them to be an instant gratification tool to make you feel better. And that's what they do. They can trick us because they're like, look at this person being stupid with me, I'm going to fucking be stupid with them back. So if you go up with anything, they'll fucking trick you. And they'll be like, motherfucker, let's trick this one because they're just wanting the instant gratification. So we'll start playing games with them. And I've had it with my dragon. I spoke to my dragon. The first time I spoke to my dragon, I asked it a really stupid question, and it gave me a really stupid answer back as a joke. Basically, like laughed at me and just because. So I asked my dragon, when am I going to have more dream time engagement with it? And it laughed, and it said, in the great synchronicities of the universe, you can't tell what's going to happen. You just allow synchronicity to take its place. And that's what it is, basically. So basically, I'm there like wanting this instant gratification. It'll be next week or next year. And he was just like, I can't do anything. I literally live in synchronicity. I'm with the uniworlds, the planets, and we're in this synchronicity like orchestra. So it made me feel so fucking stupid. And I was like, afterwards, I was like, oh, fuck, I'm not going to ask a stupid question like that to a celestial being again. Because they'll be like, what the fuck? So I thought I'd share that one.
if I can add, that reminded me, we were in a place where they prepare us well for ayahuasca. They said, have intention before you drink. So one of my intention, one of the nights, I'm like, ayahuasca, just show me all that is, everything, just show me in this session. And boy, I just couldn't handle it. It was continuously multi-dimensional roller coaster. It was just a loop and loop and loop and really fast in ways that I was just like, I can't handle this. And ayahuasca was like, you asked for it. I'm like, oh yeah. Can you just make it stop now? Yeah.
And that's it. And when we are connecting to these beings as well, making sure you're purified as well, and you regularly clear your energy field out. The amount of people who connect to other dimensional beings and they get dirty because they don't do any purification on themselves. So being as pure as possible before you connect to them, regularly saging, clearing your field, not going in there with anger and hatred. And again, yeah, doing it for a process, doing it for your own journey, and not doing it for the instant gratification of feeling better. Or I've spoke to this Pleiadian or Syrian Andromedan just so I could feel good. Why are you doing it? Ask yourself, why am I speaking to this being? What do I want from it? And start having full respect for them, like I am speaking to you two. I respect you both, respect them as well, and that they will trick you. And that's the beauty of it. There's so many trickster spirits out there who basically have to trick you to give you a lesson. So they're teachers, basically. Like, and that's so beautiful, you saying that, Nalinee, that you thought you wanted to be ready, but the universe is like, you really want to be ready for this? Like, I get those lessons a lot. You asked for this.
And the heart space as well, like, you know, being in the heart and coming from the heart in the questions rather than from the head. And especially I feel dealing with and connecting with the elemental realm, they know your intentions. You can't trick them. They can read your energy. They can see right through you. So coming from the heart space, and then if that's where you're at, if that's where you're coming from, they so want to be with us. They so want to communicate with us. And you were both talking about seeing, and I think everybody is starting to see more now. I've always seen more at night, and I think I did as a child. That's one of the reasons why I was scared of the dark, because I would see movement, I would see, but then you look and you can't see anything with your front vision. It's just with your peripheral. And often when I see energy, it's like, you know, in the television you used to see all the white dots on the television, like when the programs had finished and there was all the white noise, there was all the white dots. That's sometimes at night how I see the energy, but these days you see much more of the lines between that are joining the white dots together. And it just seems now that it's so much clearer, and not just at night, in the day. My visual sense was a bit slower to come online than my feeling sense, for example. So I'd have a feeling of things and maybe would see things with my eyes closed, with my third eye. But these days it's much more seeing with all three kind of connected together. Are you having similar experiences with your vision, that it's getting more tuned in?
Yes. So I teach psychic surgery, and one of the processes of me back in 2013, 2012, when I started the journey, I used to be obsessed with vision, and a lot of people are obsessed with vision. And what I learned through the time is you have to allow every sense to come into non-competition, non-hierarchical order with yourself. So you have to have the smell, the taste, the touch, the feel. How does it taste? How does energy taste? Use that instead of focusing on the visualization. And when you start using all of the menu of experiences we have to sense, then the vision starts coming. And a lot of people block themselves from seeing because they don't use the other senses. They're that focused on the visualization, that expectation is a limitation. And soon as they expect, spirit's not about expectation. It's about being in the flow, being in the now without expectations or connections to it. So once, and it was Andrew Bartis who mentored me and helped me through that process with the senses. And once I started doing that more, I started seeing a hell of a lot more, because I was using, when I do a session now, I don't just see, I feel, I taste, I feel the energy. What was it reading to me in my bones, in my feeling as well? And so many people get obsessed with visualization. One person will say, oh, I saw a dragon. The other person would get jealous and be like, oh God, I didn't see anything. And that again is removing all of that bullshit from myself and just allowing to use all of your senses. And even if it's just a feeling, allow it. Don't feel guilty and bad that you've just had a feeling and it's not a visualization. Don't beat yourself up about it. And I did for a long time. And sometimes I don't see as much, and that's just the way it is. And I don't get annoyed anymore about it. I'm just like, yep, that's just what was meant to happen. So I've had my own experience through that, of doing that myself. And from the years of doing it, learning that using all the senses is very important, every single one of them. And
That's a
not,
good.
sorry,
Go
go
on.
ahead. And yeah, not being in competition with anybody, not having hierarchical order with anybody as part of our code, is one of the main things what I have to live, breathe, and remind myself each day of why I'm doing it. Not in competition with anybody. And as soon as people start coming in competition with me, it's not having it as part of my relevance anymore. I'm not trying to compete with anyone. I'm just trying to be myself. And it's beautiful to see yourself, Denise and Nalinee, because you do have that aspect of you. You're authentic and you're not in competition. And we're all here as part of heart space awareness and helping others and helping ourselves. So yeah, that's my little take on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because I honestly do feel that it's too much emphasis on the expectation of the third eye, opening the third eye, opening the third eye, and then people project this and create expectation that when they work with plant medicine, whatever it be, they must have vision. And that's not it. And also I'm beginning to teach channeling now, and it's not about seeing, again, it's about feeling, because feeling encompasses that 360-degree receptivity that we have. So I totally resonate with what Dale was saying, that it's just about feeling, and also about embracing our own unique ways of receiving information, feeling the information, feeling the energy. Third eye, the ability to see is just one thing. And if you continue to work only with visualization and with third eye, without the awareness of the heart, without awareness of know thyself, and then it can get really distorted into the egoic realm. So yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Beautiful, Nalinee. And that's it. And what I've learned as well, which you talked about at the end part of there, is know thyself. And that's one of the greatest things you can do spiritually, is know your story, doing inner work, go back to those trauma states, those places where you weren't in power, and start changing them. So you have trust. And that's, if you want to become a great healer or want to start going down that journey, trust. If you don't know yourself, if you don't trust yourself, that you have to start learning to trust yourself, your ability to read energy, your ability to do anything. And once that trust is instilled into you when you're doing the sessions or anything like that, it's a form of protection, and it's just a form of a bubble around you where you're in full trust with you, your client, and nothing you say is in doubt, whatever. And I've gone through that process. It's taken me a long time to trust myself enough. Like you say, Nalinee, know thy story is so important. If you don't know who you are, then that's not spirituality. Spirituality is about knowing yourself and every part of yourself, the good, the bad, the in between. So that really cool that you said that.
Boom.
Boom.
I drop. Yeah, and I feel like I see with my hands when I do sessions and my hands are going over the body. My eyes are closed, but it's my hands that are creating the vision in my mind. And I think you move into a space where it's actually hard to differentiate between what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you're feeling. It all kind of becomes one together. And you're right about the third eye people do. And I did when I started, because I wasn't very visual. And in my first Reiki attunement, one of the women I was an eagle flying over the mountains. And I was like, I want to be an eagle flying over the mountains. But I just felt really nice. I had this beautiful feeling of home. And I also think that if my visual and my hearing sense had come online strongly from the beginning, my other senses wouldn't have been as attuned. And I feel when you're just a feeler, that there's a greater level of trust, that it builds your trust more strongly. And it's maybe a little bit harder to work with in the beginning, but that makes it all the more strong. And I don't even know if I noticed when the seeing was coming online, because it just all began to merge, really.
Yeah, feeling is everything, because when you open up to feel and no longer attached to the third eye, so to speak, you feel your own internal reaction and respond to the incoming energy or the energies around you. And then again, it comes back to know thyself, know your inner programming, know your own, what I like to call loophole, know your own little loophole of darkness, know your own place of where the seduction and temptation of the ego is, and bring yourself back into center, and you're all fine. Yeah. Thank you.
And know the lens that you're looking through.
Yes.
In that, you know, where are our programs? What are we? What are the glasses that we're looking through? What are the perceptions that we have that we're looking through and hearing through?
And that's it. And ask yourself the question, am I faking it to making it? And there is a lot of people out there in the spiritual community, I've been there, who are faking it. And that those are some harsh words, but it's the truth that they'd be posting about spirituality, but they won't do any work on themselves. And I've been there myself. I've posted spiritual stuff online, and I'm spiritual in this, but you've got to go through that rites of passage of actually doing the self-work, knowing thyself, not having any blame and shame with anybody, not learning forgiveness on a deeper level where you've forgiven everyone completely and it's not part of your process, holding charge and polarity. So my recommendation from my own journey and what's helped me is inner work, and knowing thyself is one of the most important going forward, going back to those traumas, because those traumas are back doorways in for other entities. So when you're speaking to a high frequency being and you've got loads of trauma attached to you, it can open up doorways for negative frequencies as well. So the more you do the inner work, the more you work on your traumas and your negative patterns, the more you fortify your own reality. So you're not allowing anything in anymore. And I've been hijacked in the past, where I was quite a dirty energy person. I didn't really do any work on myself. I used to have clients, but I didn't set time to do inner work. And now inner work's part of my process, of my ongoing journey of the healing path, as a responsibility for being a healer and a teacher, that I have to go through my own shit. Like even being on this show and working with Andrew, Laura and Matty, I've learned negative things about myself, what I need to look at. So I take time aside every few weeks and go into that part of me, right? This has shown me this now. I have to be responsible for it now and learn from it. I'm not blaming people. I've been there. It's just inspiration for you, because it's helped me grow so much more being able to do the inner work.
Yeah, it's about applying the knowledge, isn't it? We can all speak about what we know and or the pretty quotes of spirituality, but how much we applying it to our path, that's where it's at.
And I think it's very hard not to do the inner work these days, because if you're not, it's just going to come up and
every year the same shit coming round again. It used to do it to me all the time. I'm like, oh, it's this again. It's like, I've not accepted this or been truthful to it. The universe is like, we'll give you it again, see if you can understand it in a different way now.
So there's so much that I haven't touched on. But I'm feeling it's time for us to bring in some light language. What are you both feeling for an intention for this?
Maybe to know thyself. Go on, Nalinee.
That's gonna take more than an hour. Can go on forever until next year. Well, there's two centers I'm feeling. The heart and the solar plex. The solar plex because in solstice is opening up and we are feeling it, and the heart is where the unity is at, isn't it? I do not want to start. I want to be the one who coming after, because to be honest, I don't feel grounded at the moment. So anyone who's feel grounded in this space, you can start.
I'm happy to, or Dale, would you like to?
Yeah, I don't mind. If you want to go start, then go ahead. I'll come after you then. And
was there anything you were going to add about? I'm actually feeling throat as well. It feels like, you know, from there to there feels very, very appropriate.
I would like Dale to start, because I love the deep voice, and it's so grounding as well. So yeah.
So should we say maybe in the intention on activating people's true passion and voice and really who they are?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. So if you'd like to just take a few breaths, and just closing your eyes and just allowing this light language just to set the intention of knowing thyself and expressing thyself, and allowing your own voice to be heard, allowing your own words grounded in your body, grounded in your heart. So I'm going to do this intention of the light language to help you activate your own music, your own orchestra. Yohe shaku shinga kunje haka, kue shika shimba kunje kakakangu, shashuki kakue shiabo aya, wahiapo aya, ushika enju kashi bello, jinu kunja kanja kumawa, shio shunja kanja haluka, bawaki shekenga, kumbawanya, shilo kunda kichikanga, poan chikeshu kunga, shalapua nichanga, chunga ninga, chunga kichakumba kua, shangule shike mawala kia, ukakanga kakanga, chukinja kamba wachike shuka, bawachike chunja kakakakaka, chunga boashi, hula kanji kakumba wachakai, hushika, uashia hua, shakamba kukaka, chuganja cha, chamawanji, ujinga, chuna mawanji la kuenchenga, boa chikengunga ni, wakinga gunga hi, uanja bawanja dilo kul sangina kunda, bawaki washa, washia boa, chingukanga, silukumba bachakandaka, kaka.
Iana kwa iana tia si iua. Amariana kia suani iana ani kia tura. Ua si I uana iana. Iana oati. Thank you.
Ja hian tuota harniku ihat unhia put patatu korte unhia. Aleki tu horne ya. The paratiki har dukuru retikuru and I make it leki or no koto door and a door and I make it like your and a key door and lanamikio. When ye tut unki hortiki borto or dictate on to go time. No, he on to paratiki a particular. You know, noi orn get a paratiki for who lake ya hian torrent a good one together. But like a porn the or ticket partic the war tick the bombieta. And a becaring a cord at hand good at it. And I keep out the oyster at the under to go. Mapari paratugoi paradi one good lord or paratic into it. And I make horror to it and hurried to give up. Hole hiurnaka in the ois, the paratiki to ois, do to work that. Urna, a guest or oi. He lay horror und or tacker. Stabaradi or the
Tisi iana urda kiana ayana ana kiata. Arano kua si I ua mana. Ani I kua ua si I a. Thank you. Ik ach kia oa I iana. Ak uach ki ia si ur. Ti si iana a.
Shawaki achu anja kuacha shikumba kacha shangu chenja hunga mawa shambawachi shakanja chambawanji kunga shukinga kumbawanja shalakamawanji kunjikigangu shambawashi awa shikumba.
Hatisi io na ia ti.
Kia kia tonto tuia tonto. Ngama yui leon torrenta kiamo papa. Kia lehianto ia toto I tata tanto. Maliki tata tontorat. Malea tona hiato paella. Kia le tato statond oren. Maya hianto taranto upoya. Ja, hele restauranta gusta. So breathing deeply into our hearts. Feeling our awareness in our heart space. Feeling that grounded and centered and aligned connection to the earth. And if your eyes are closed, just opening them when you're ready. And drinking plenty of water. And if you're able to go out into nature after this, hug a tree, go to some water, that would be amazing.
Oh, love it. It's the first time that we jam together. Why? Why we left it this long? I had to draw. It was scribbling the energy. I'll take photo and I'll send in Messenger. It's not bright, but it's just energetic lines.
Right in light language.
Yeah, Dennis was vertical, and then when you came back, Dale, again you sound like Merlin from his cave. Yours more horizontal.
That was incredible, guys, and yeah, really, really fun. And thank you for inviting me on. And I'd like anytime you want us back on, I'll be up for it. And it was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you both. It's flown by, and it's been amazing to connect with you both. It's been a really, really lovely connection. And I'm looking forward to listening to the to our little orchestra share there at the end, just receiving that. Yeah, that was really beautiful.
Please let us know when the replay is up on YouTube so I can share to others as well. Yeah.
And I'll share it as well. Yeah, thank you.
I could send you both the we'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, thank you both so much. It's been an absolute delight. And thank you to everybody who's been with us here on the live and who is present in this future now moment on the replay. So we will see you again soon. I'm going to just
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I'll stop the live stream. Love, love, love.
It was too short.